Hey guys, and welcome to this week's edition of the Rock and Roll Heatwave. Now, I do apologize for not uploading in quite a long time, and I want to briefly address that. Things have gotten pretty busy in my personal life, and if I ever miss huge chunk of time like I have, it's usually for that specific reason. But I do want to go off script a bit and say that I do truly apologize to any of my subscribers or anybody who watches this channel for the lack of content that in the past couple months. The Rock and Roll Heatwave requires a lot of work to be put into each episode, and a lot has gotten in the way of the time that I used to have to put together these episodes. So for the next little while, I will not be available to upload on a full-time basis. However, the Rock and Roll Heatwave will be up at least once every 3 to 4 weeks. But I promise, like Pizza Pop Snacks, the Rock and Roll Heatwave, each episode will be jam-packed and loaded with interesting stuff. I don't know. I'm talking out of my own ass now. Again, I apologize for the lack of content, and thank you to my subscribers who have stuck around and who will continue to stick around. Pepinia, if you're watching this, you're the best girl ever. By the way, guys, you can check out the official website for Bikers Against Child Abuse in the description below. I don't own the organization, just spreading awareness for quite a worthy cause. But yeah, this week we've got some good stuff in store for the YouTube universe as well. As usual, I meant. Music, video games, anime, movies, wrestling, and for the first time, TV shows. Speaking of Heatwave, by the way, the weather's been insanely hot in recent days, at least where I am. But not as hot as this beautiful girl right here. I love metal chicks. She does all kinds of cool videos and whatnot, not to mention she's drop dead gorgeous. So, do check her out. Alright, to kick off this week's episode, we are going to start off with some video games. And I'm going to kick off the video game fix with the top 10 worst video games I have ever played. Now, number 10 is a game called Superman 64. It's obviously for the Nintendo 64. And this game was pretty bad, like, all around. It was based off the Superman cartoon at the time, and it was just repetitive. It had poor graphics, odd controls, and just terrible gameplay. I mean, there's nothing really else to say about it. It's just a horrible game in general. Number 9 is Shaq Fu. Shaq in a fighting game. Just enough said. Just let that sink in. Number 8 is Mario Tennis. This is just one of those games in the Super Mario franchise that I just never found to be appealing or amusing. It was really just a money grabber for the franchise. There's nothing really special about it. It's just tennis with Mario characters. Number 7 is Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. Don't get me wrong, I freaking love the Legend of Zelda series, and being someone who is quite fond of the Legend of Zelda series, this game was a major disappointment for me. It wasn't a bad game, but this game failed to meet the standards and expectations that were met in other Zelda games, at least in my opinion. Number 6 is Super Mario 4 for the Game Boy Color. I don't even know where to begin with this game. Mario is bigger than everything else in the game. He fits awkwardly. He can barely jump or move, and the controls just suck. Like, it's impossible to beat the first level. Why don't you take a look at this gameplay I recorded of Super Mario 4 for the Game Boy Color and just see how awful it is. I'm sorry you had to see that mess of a game. Number 5 is Flappy Bird, a stupid little game for iPod or iPhone or whatever, is literally designed to piss people off. You know what? I'm gonna play Flappy Bird and I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, number 4 is Star Wars for the NES. As a big fan of Star Wars, I felt this game was horrible. It hardly depicted anything in Star Wars. You had stiff controls and extremely complicating gameplay. You can't really figure out what to do in the game. It's strange. But it was the '80s NES. Couldn't really do much better at the time. So number 3 is WCW Thunder for the N64. This game was just one of the WCW wrestling games that really failed to live up to expectations when it came to the in-ring gameplay. I mean, you could barely have a good wrestling match in the game, and the graphics were just trash compared to the WWF games coming out at that time. Number 2, speaking of WWF, is WWF Wrestlemania for the NES. I get it. Again, it was the NES, but come on. This was one of my least favorite wrestling games of all time, next to WWE 2K15. And again, the in-ring gameplay is just horrible. I mean, half the time, the two wrestlers are just running around hitting mid-air. You know what? Here's a little video clip of it, just to show you how awful this game is. Well, I think you've seen enough of that. Number 1 is The Crow, City of Angels. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen my past videos, but I have stated that The Crow is my number 1 favorite movie of all time. Always has been, always will be. So, when I first got my hands on this game, I was stoked. And then I popped in the game, and literally any happiness or excitement I had just vanished. Here's a small clip of the game now.
Night. Hey, clownface.
Now, clearly the development of this game was rushed and there was no effort put into it whatsoever. I mean, where do I begin? The graphics suck, I don't even know how to move, the dialogue is trash, the music is repetitive, like, this game is horrible. It's just plain horrible. There is nothing good about this game at all. I dare any gamer out there to attempt to play this game. You can't do it. It's impossible. Now, in the last episode, I mentioned Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver being my number 1 favorite game of all time. I want to talk a bit about this game. First of all, the music in this game was composed by Information Society frontman Kurt Harland, and he did a fucking awesome job on the music in the game. The story takes place in Nosgoth, a fictional kingdom in the game. Kain, the ruler of Nosgoth, remains in his throne, but a mortal by the name of Raziel approaches him at one point and showcases his evolution. He grows wings. Kain, jealous of his evolution, throws him into an abyss, attempting to destroy him. An eternity later, Raziel awakens in the underworld and completely deformed, but indeed still alive, and you have to find your way through a destroyed land of Nosgoth full of Kain's demons to find Kain and seek vengeance. Now, while the graphics weren't 100% top-notch, the story is just badass and phenomenal, and the landscapes in the game were quite awesome as well. You should definitely check out this game. It's wicked. It's for the PlayStation 1, I believe. You can also get it on PC, but it was mainly for PS1. Now I would like to talk about some music. As of late, there's been some pretty good albums coming out, at least in the world of metal, but one really stood out that I really would like to talk about, and we'll get to that. But we're going to kick off the music zone with Dark Funeral's newest release, Where Shadows Forever Reign. For those of you who don't know Dark Funeral, they are a Swedish black metal band that originated in, I think it was Stockholm or something. And they've been around for a little over 20 years, I believe, and they just put out this album not too long ago. It was great to see that there is still true black metal out there. Now, while other black metal bands have went on to experiment with other styles and influences, Dark Funeral has managed to stay true to their vision and to their sound, and you definitely get that with this album. In fact, this album is a pure demonstration of a band's dedication to what built them. I mean, the new vocalist in the group truly helps fulfill that vision and dedication. In fact, they've really matured as a band, and you hear that all throughout the album. The adrenaline-filled guitar work is really what flows through the album fairly well. However, on the first few tracks, it's the vocals and the blast beats that really dominate. And the one song I really did like where the guitar became a primary focus was As One, We Shall Conquer. And another song I'd love to point out, which was a good listen, was the song Nail Them to the Cross. I honestly have no complaints about this album. It was awesome. It was a great listen. If you're a fan of that true black metal sound and you're looking for it in 2016, this album's the way to go, honestly. Now, I'm not going to talk about Hell Yeah's new album or the band. Let's just say I'm a hardcore Pantera fan and truly hate how much of a jerk Vinnie Paul is towards other Pantera members, and yeah, the whole topic sets me off, and I'm not going to go down that road. Now, I would like to do a throwback album review, where I review a good album, or even a topic, from the past. And on this episode, I'd like to talk about Dark Moor's classic album, Autumnal. For those who don't know Dark Moor, they are a neoclassical symphonic power metal band that originated in Madrid, Spain. I think they formed around like 93 or 94. These guys are friggin' awesome. They are one of my favorite bands, and this album was phenomenal. I'm not going to go too far in depth on the album, but one song that I really, really loved was the power symphonic metal rendition of the Swan Lake song. It's so beautiful, yet so kick-ass. It's absolutely amazing. And if you're going to listen to this album, you guys need to hear that song. All in all, the album is phenomenal. If you like classical music and if you like metal, this is the way to go. And finally, to conclude the musical interlude of this week's episode, I want to talk about a recent metal release that really shook things up, at least for me. I want to talk about Gojira's recent release, Magma. Holy shit. What can I say about this album? For the most part, it was absolutely friggin' amazing. Like, this album shows you that metal is alive and better than ever here in 2016. Wow. Just wow. This is different than anything that I have ever heard by Gojira. It definitely is not the death metal sound that we know them for. It's got more of a Meshuggah or Deftones mood with a groovier, kick-ass type of feel around it. But at the same time, each song on the album is a little diverse when it comes to mood or feel. The song Silvera it shows the dueling between Joe's wicked guitar and Mario's drumming. One song that I really wanted to point out is Stranded. The riffs in this song are super kick-ass and catchy, not to mention the harmonic barb on the guitar. Wicked song. Couple other songs you should check out are Lowlands and Only Pain. I honestly have absolutely nothing bad to say about this album at all. It is phenomenal. And before we conclude the musical zone on this week's episode, and before we move on, I wanted to quickly say something. Now, in my absence, we saw the passing of the legendary Muhammad Ali. I just wanted to pay my respects and say that you were truly a legend in the boxing world, and your fight with Joe Frazier, Thrilla in Manila, is the greatest fight of all time. Rest in peace, and also rest in peace, Kimbo Slice. You two will be missed. Now, I'm not gonna lie, last episode I totally slacked on the movie stuff, but because I've been gone for so long, I ain't half-assing anything here on this episode. Oh no. For those of you who don't know, I freaking love movies, and I've been watching movies whenever, wherever I have time. I don't sleep at night, so I stay up and watch movies. But I recently made my way to the local movie theater to watch The Conjuring 2. Warning, this may contain spoilers, but I'm going to review the movie right here, right now. If you don't want to be spoiled, skip about 2 minutes. Now, I've never actually seen the first Conjuring, so I was quite oblivious walking into the second one. However, people and internet databases have always spoken highly of the Conjuring movies. Google best horror movies ever, and The Conjuring is one of the movies that comes up on that little thing. Now, all my friends on my personal social media have been praising this movie, so I had to go see it. Mind you that horror movies don't really scare me, but I love to watch them. And I can honestly say that The Conjuring 2 was really well done, and is in no way overrated. Majority of the horror movies can get predictable over time, but through majority of the movie, there was quite a bit of unpredictability. There were times where even I had no idea what would happen. Or I'd think one thing would happen and something completely different happened. That really it's what keeps the viewers on the edge of their seats. And another thing that I really liked about this movie was there wasn't a lot of teasing. And what I mean by that is when they build up suspense and music so you think that something freaky is going to happen, but then nothing happens. Which is kind of a way of teasing the viewers, making them it makes them wait for the jump scares or whatever, and gives it a slow build up. This movie just jumped right into the paranormal and creepy stuff as soon as things started going wrong. They did not feel the need to build up slowly, which was pretty cool, and the overall concept and plot of this movie was really well done. The only flaws I can point out was the movie relies a little too much on jump scares or shock scenes, and there were a couple kind of goofy or corny scenes in the movie, but it doesn't take away it barely takes anything away from how good the movie is. Altogether, I'd give this movie a 9 out of 10 rating. It's great. Now, recently I saw a movie on Netflix called Hush. Not as much of a horror film, but more of a thriller suspense kind of film. Basically, this deaf girl who lives in this house gets terrorized by an intruder, and she has to fight for her life. Very cool concept for a movie. The idea sounds cool on paper, but on film there were quite a few flaws. Again, spoiler alert, so if you don't want any spoilers, you can skip about maybe a minute and a half. So when the intruder first arrives, he's got this super creepy mask on, and that I felt was cool. It made the movie a lot creepier. But when he took his mask off, he was just this ordinary dude. And I felt that taking the mask off took away a lot of the intimidation he had coming into the scene. Another thing that bothered me, obviously you can tell the movie is set in the current day and age, looking at all the technology that the deaf girl uses. She's got a Mac, an iPhone, all of that. All of the weapons and technology we have in this day and age, out of all of them, why the hell did the stalker or intruder decide to bring a freaking crossbow as his only weapon? A weapon that obviously takes time and skill. That crossbow slowed him down so much. It's like just obvious solutions to the problem that this film is based off of. There's so many situations that could have easily been fixed. So I would give this movie a 5 out of 10. They did some pretty good stuff, but there were a lot of flaws and questions to ask after the movie, which, they kind of overshadowed the good stuff. Now, I don't think I've ever said this in any of my previous videos or episodes, but I'm a huge, huge fan of Japanese movies, especially the horror films. I mean, there's just something about Japanese films that sometimes deliver a better performance than most American films, especially the horror ones, once again. Let's compare the original Japanese version of The Ring to the American remake. The Japanese one I found to be much more terrifying and enjoyable, while the American one seemed more like a watered-down product of, or a shell of what the original Ring is. That's just my opinion, though. On the next episode, I'll touch base a little more on some Japanese movies that I really enjoy. But for now, it's time to move forward to the anime zone. This week on the Anime of the Week section, or the anime zone of the Rock and Roll Heatwave, I want to talk about an anime series that I started watching recently called Heaven's Lost Property. Now, while majority of the anime that I watch can get quite serious or intense, Heaven's Lost Property is just one of those animes that gives me a great comic relief. First of all, the show's kind of sexual. There's some sexual humor, but I love it. The girls are pretty hot, but you have some episodes where Tomoki, the main character, is being attacked by flying panties, and it's pretty funny. The premise of the show is basically this high school dude named Tomoki, or just Toma, who comes in contact with this smoking hot robot chick named Icarus that came from outer space or something to serve Tomoki, and it goes a bit more in depth, but I don't want to give away too much of it, just recommending if you guys like comical animes, check it out. And now it's time to enter the wrestling zone here on the Rock and Roll Heatwave. Now, I've bantered about the WWE and TNA in the past episodes, and this week I just want to keep things a little more simple and talk about my top 10 worst wrestling matches of all time. This should be fun. Let's just jump into things here. Number 10 is the Boogeyman and Mini Boogeyman against Finlay and Hornswoggle from Saturday Night's Main Event 2007. It was one of the ones from 2007. What the hell? Wow. This whole show is just awful. It's god awful. Like, this match was a joke. Like, the stupidity, the goofy comedy that makes wrestling fans cringe. Like, I get it, you want casual fans, but this is just stupid. You had Mini Boogeyman chasing around Hornswoggle, two little dudes running around. It's just, there's no wrestling. It's just unwatchable. Number 9 is Eugene versus Simon Dean from like Raw 2005, I think. You can find it on YouTube, actually. Talk about stupid gimmicks, no pun intended. Two of some of the stupidest gimmicks in the WWE. Both were hardly good wrestlers, and watching them attempt to wrestle was a colossal waste of time. All I gotta say about that. Again, look it up on YouTube. I'll even put the YouTube link in the description below so you guys can watch it. Number 8 is Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at Halloween Havoc WCW 1998. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of Hogan and Warrior, and their match at WrestleMania 6 was amazing. A true timestamp in WWE history. But sometimes trying to recreate or recapture that magic several years later doesn't always go as planned. This match was ridiculously long, for the pay-per-view at least, cutting out one of the most anticipated main events in WCW history, and it was full of mishaps and botches, and it's just unwatchable if you're a wrestling fan. It's horrible. Really helped kill WCW. Speaking of killing WCW, number 7 is the Macho Man Randy Savage against Hulk Hogan on WCW Monday Nitro 1999. Now, the Macho Man Randy Savage is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but 1999 came along. Macho Man returned from an injury with this new look. He had his hair all gelled back in this really, really tight ponytail. He started rocking fur coats and leather pants. He looked like a 50-year-old trying to be a 20-year-old. My point is, he had a bit of a midlife crisis going on, and he could barely move in the ring. And the night after Savage wins the title, Hogan comes out and challenges him for it. What else is new? I swear, 90% of this match is Macho Man whipping Hulk Hogan with a belt. It's so slow, I just lose my patience trying to watch it. And the worst part is, Hogan decides to steal the title off Macho, not even letting him have one more title run. Once again, Hogan always has to be a part of it. It sucked. It was sad to see. It killed WCW. Number 6 is John Cena versus Randy Orton at Night of Champions 2013. I really can't think of anything more boring. Oh wait, I can, but we'll get into that. This match wasn't just boring, it was awful because clearly the fans had no interest in it. When the fans are cheering for a guy who isn't even in the match, you've got a major problem if you're the WWE. Plus, John Cena and Randy Orton, against other competitors, they're fine, but when they're in the ring together, it's just boring. You know, it's nobody's interested. Number 5 is Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30. The streak ended. It's bullshit. I'm not happy with the way it ended. That's all I'm saying. Number 4 is The Miz versus John Cena. Now, aside from at WrestleMania 27, aside from the fact that this WrestleMania was Edge's last WrestleMania, and that the incredible Undertaker and Triple H match stole the show, majority of this WrestleMania sucked, especially the main event. The Miz is just awful, especially as a champion. And the worst part of that main event is that it wasn't even about The Miz in the end. It was just to build up John Cena and The Rock. It was a real stinker, actually. Number 3 is The Big Show versus Aki Bono at WrestleMania 21. Now, Big Show attempting to sumo wrestle a legit sumo wrestler. Just look at this picture and that's enough to turn you away. Now, number 2 is Yokozuna versus Mabel sometime in 1995. When you take two gigantic wrestlers and put them in the ring, the pace is incredibly slow, and this match just ends up incredibly boring. Two giants just slugging around the ring, and that's what you had with this match. 1995 wasn't really the best year for the WWF. And number 1 is Rosie O'Donnell, or fake Rosie O'Donnell versus fake Donald Trump in Raw of 2007. Oh dear God, Jesus Christ, what in the blue hell was Vince McMahon thinking? When your audience is chanting things such as boring, we want wrestling, and the worst, TNA, and Vince is just sitting there watching this train wreck, once again, if you're the WWE, you know you've got a serious problem. This was just stupid. That's all I'm going to say. It was just stupid. It was goofy. It was hardly wrestling. They weren't even actual wrestlers. It wasn't even actually Donald Trump in the ring, for crying out loud. It was ridiculously idiotic. And again, I get the whole entertainment aspect and trying to get the casual fans, but this is not the way to do it. This is just horrendous. And it definitely helped serve in the ratings decline over the last 16 years. But yeah, that concludes the Wrestling Zone. That's my 10 worst wrestling matches of all time. I wanted to thank you guys for your patience and hope you guys will stay loyal while I'm on this part-time schedule. And thank you guys for watching this week's episode of the Rock and Roll Heatwave, Creatures of the Night, as I used to say. Good day to you guys.